My name is Adelina, and I am 26 years old. I live a quiet life in the city. I work as a cashier in a large supermarket. My job is simple, and the hours are long. At the end of each day, my body feels tired. I grew up in a small family. My parents were not rich, but they were kind. They taught me to be honest and to respect people. After they passed away, I learned how to live on my own. Life became harder, but I kept moving forward. I do not dream of a perfect life. I only want a safe and steady one. At that time, I was not looking for love. I was only trying to survive. One cold, rainy morning, I stood at my checkout counter. Cold air came in from outside. An older man walked in slowly. He brushed the rain from his coat and looked around quietly. He chose my line and waited without speaking. His eyes were calm, and he did not rush me. "You look tired," he said gently. "It has been a long day," I replied. He nodded, paid, and left. For a short moment, I stood still and thought about his words. I saw him again the next day. Near the end of my shift, he was waiting by the exit. Across the street, there was a small cafe. A few minutes later, he came back with a paper cup. "This will warm you," he said, handing it to me. I took the cup and felt the heat in my hands. It surprised me. No one had ever done something like that for me before. His name was Jonathan. After that, I began to see him often. Sometimes near the end of my shift. Sometimes just after I finished work. Sometimes he brought tea. Sometimes a small piece of bread wrapped in a napkin. He never asked personal questions. He never made me feel uncomfortable. He was simply kind. And slowly, I began to notice him too. One afternoon, Jonathan spoke in a serious voice. "You live alone," he said. "Your life is very hard." I looked down at my hands. My heart felt tight. "I want to help you," he said. "Why?" I asked quietly. "Because I care," he replied, "and because I see you." That night, his words stayed with me. They followed me back to my small room. I could not stop thinking about them. The next day, he gave me a sealed white envelope. That evening, under a weak, yellow light, I read his letter. He offered to help with my rent. He offered to help with my daily life. He asked for nothing in return. At the end of the letter, there was one more line. He wanted to marry me. The word felt heavy in my chest. Marriage. I did not sleep that night. The next day, rain fell again outside the supermarket. I gave him my answer. "I will marry you," I said quietly. There were no grand gestures, only silence and understanding. Jonathan's house stood not far from the city. It was solid and old. The walls were thick, and the windows looked out onto a small green garden. Inside, it smelled of books, flowers, and polished wood. "This is my house," he said. "It is your house now, too." The silence there felt different from the silence of my old room. It was deep and steady. It was not empty. The first nights were difficult. I slept in a separate room. I lay awake and wondered if this was truly my life now. Jonathan respected that space. He never questioned it. Each morning, he made tea. Each evening, we ate together in calm silence. I helped in the kitchen. He worked in the garden for hours. Sometimes he brought books. He left them quietly on the table. Slowly, our days found a rhythm. One evening, as we listened to the radio, he said, "I am glad you are here, Adelina." The words stayed with me. I began to feel stronger. For the first time in years, I was not always afraid. But peace does not last forever. Outside our quiet house, the world was still watching, and people began to talk. At the market, I heard whispers. The young woman with the old man, she must have married him for money. I carried those words home in silence. That night, I cleaned the shelves in the study. There, I found an old photograph. A young woman stood beside Jonathan. She was my wife, he said quietly. She was young, he continued. She had nothing. I helped her. And then? I asked. She left, he said. When her life became easier, the room felt cold. The truth came out before I could stop it. I married you for the money, I said, for safety. Jonathan did not look surprised. So did she, he replied. That night, I lay awake. His words stayed in my mind. In the morning, Jonathan made tea as usual. His voice was calm. It had not changed. That quiet hurt more than anger. After a long walk, I returned home. I am still here, I said softly, but I am afraid. He looked at me and nodded. I understand, he replied. A few days later, Jonathan grew weaker. One night, he asked me to sit beside him. The doctor told me before we married, he said slowly. I did not have much time. He was silent for a moment. My first wife did not leave me, he said quietly. She became ill and did not survive. After that, time no longer felt endless to him. When I met you, Adelina, he continued, I knew I could not wait anymore. I wanted you to be safe, he said, to protect you from the hard parts of life. He looked at me, his eyes calm and honest. I also wanted to leave something alive behind, he added, something that could grow after me. The weight of his words settled inside me. I did not marry you to be saved, he said. I married you so you would be safe, even when I am gone. In that moment, everything changed. I was no longer staying because of fear. I was staying because I chose him. I am not leaving, I said. Not now. Not ever. Jonathan smiled, tired but peaceful. After that night, everything between us felt clear. There were no more hidden questions, no more fear between us. We both understood the truth, and that understanding brought peace. We knew our time was limited, so we chose not to waste it. Jonathan moved more slowly now, but he was always present. His touch was gentle and sure. I stopped thinking about his age. What I felt was his care and attention. At night, when he held me, I felt safe, not because I needed protection, but because I was loved. He was older, yes, but he was still a man who wanted me. He desired me. He reached for me with warmth and confidence, and I was his wife. I stayed with him because I wanted to. Our days were quiet and gentle. Our nights were close and full. With him, my body felt relaxed. My heart felt calm. I was a happy woman with my husband. For the first time, I felt complete happiness in my life. For the first time, marriage made sense to me. It was not perfect. It was not exciting, but it was real. I felt secure in my life. I felt happy in my heart. Months passed. One morning, my body felt different. I was more tired than usual. Something inside me had changed. When the doctor told me, my hands shook. I was pregnant. When I told Jonathan, he smiled softly. His eyes filled with quiet joy. A child, he whispered. Our child. He held my hands for a long time. In that moment, I understood my life. I once married to survive. But now, I was living. This was no longer about money. It was no longer only about safety. This was love. This was family. This was the happiness a person hopes to find, at least once in a lifetime, and I had found it. We had already lived what we needed to live. Time moved quietly after that. I cared for him, read to him, and stayed beside him until the end. One morning, he did not wake. Jonathan was gone. The house was still, but it did not feel empty. Weeks later, I found a letter in his study. "My greatest wish," he wrote, "was that you would never be alone again." I understood then. I married him to survive. He married me so I could live. Years passed. I started to learn drawing. I used it to keep memories of Jonathan and our love. Each drawing was simple, but it was honest. I drew his hands, his chair, and the quiet garden we loved. As I drew, I did not feel alone. Love was still there, living inside the lines and colors. I learned that love does not end when someone leaves. It changes, but it stays with us. I once married to survive. Later, I learned how to love. And in the end, I learned how to remember. That was enough for one life. Outside my quiet world, nothing had changed. People still whispered. She married an old man for money. I no longer lowered my head. They did not know our story. I had known poverty and fear, and I had survived them. I had been given kindness, and I had learned how to stay. Some love arrives loudly. Ours grew quietly, through care and patience. If you enjoyed this story, thank you for listening until the end. On the Learn English Level 3 channel, we share simple English stories about real life, real choices, and real feelings. Each story helps you practice English and think a little deeper at the same time. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. A new story is coming soon, and it will be even more touching. I hope to see you again in the next video. Don't worry if you didn't understand every word or every sentence. You can listen one more time, slowly, and understanding will come.